Ronin Mode, Unmasked, Chapter 17, Dawn and the Ghost's Time Couldn't Kill. A few days later, Dawn called me and asked if I wanted to go to the park, just to walk around and get some exercise like we used to. I agreed. I hadn't told Deanna or German that I had seen Dawn a few days earlier, or that she wanted to give our relationship another shot. Like I said before, I was only seeing them maybe once or twice a week at that point, and I still hadn't given Dawn a real answer. So in my mind, why should I deal with everybody else's judgment and reactions when I hadn't even made up my own mind yet? I met Dawn at one of my favorite parks. It was late in the evening, and the whole place had that strange kind of quiet that only happens when the sun is fully gone but the night still feels young. The streetlights were starting to wake up one by one, and the shadows under the trees looked deeper than they should have. The air had that dry desert feel to it, still warm from the day, but softer now, like the world had finally stopped fighting the heat. To my surprise, she even brought Bobs with her. The second I saw him, something in me softened. I stepped forward and gave him a big, warm hug, telling him how much he had grown. He smiled up at me with that same familiar brightness, that same innocent energy that made everything around him feel a little lighter. And honestly, that warmed my heart more than I expected. We started walking through the park together, with Bob's always just a couple of steps ahead of us, moving around like he owned the whole place. The kid had that restless kind of energy where he never really walked so much as bounced through the world. Dawn and I caught up on everything that had happened over the past year. At first the conversation felt easy, almost natural, like we were slipping back into a rhythm we used to know by heart. There was no immediate tension, no coldness, no sharp edges. Just two people walking side by side in the dark, talking like time hadn't done what it had actually done to both of us. At one point, she asked if I was dating anybody. I told her the truth. I had been on a few random dates. One girl worked at a movie theater, another was a personal trainer at a gym, and there had even been a very brief fling with an older woman, but that only lasted a few days. Nothing serious. Nothing lasting. Nothing that stuck. Then she asked about Deanna. Whatever happened with her? Are you guys still close friends? I stopped for a second, trying to find the right way to explain the whole situation without making it sound worse than it already was. It's complicated, I said honestly. After the whole New Year's situation, me and Dee did end up hooking up a few times. She even stayed with me for a little while, and things got pretty intense for a bit. But we're really just close friends now. And even though I do have real feelings for her, I don't think she's looking for a serious relationship, at least not right now, and not with me. Dawn didn't say anything right away. She just looked at me, really looked at me, like she was trying to read the damage underneath my words. Then she stopped walking. The park seemed to go quiet around us. Her hands came up slowly and gently cupped my face. Her touch was soft and familiar, and for one strange second it felt like she still knew me better than anybody else did. That kind of familiarity is dangerous. It reaches into places you thought had gone numb. And then there was the smell of her skin, that faint scent of tea tree oil I still remembered from before. Small thing. Nothing dramatic. But enough to drag me straight back into old memories, old nights, old versions of ourselves that still existed somewhere under the surface. Look, she said quietly. I understand. You were heartbroken. You were just trying to pass the time and forget about me. That's my fault. I won't hold it against you. There was no anger in her voice. No accusation. Just honesty. Just history. Then she leaned in and kissed me softly. And that soft kiss turned into something deeper. Not rushed. Not frantic. Just real. The kind of kiss that carries weight because it has history behind it. The kind that says more than a whole conversation ever could. It wasn't just a kiss, it was memory, regret, hope, and confusion all colliding at once. We stayed there wrapped up in each other for a long time, only pulling back once to check on Bob's before letting the moment pull us right back in again. The world around us kept moving, but for that stretch of time it felt like we were standing still. When we finally kept walking, everything felt different. The air between us had changed. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was subtler than that. But I felt it. The shift. The little invisible crack in the moment where something old started breathing again. We talked about family and life after that. I asked her about her brothers, her sisters, her mom, and her dad. She told me everybody was doing fine, but she was worried about her dad. He'd been having some minor health problems, high blood pressure, cholesterol, that kind of thing. Nothing that sounded immediately catastrophic, but enough to make her uneasy, enough to sit heavy in the back of her mind. I told her he needed to take better care of himself. She nodded. I know. I'm on his case about it. We stayed out there talking a little longer before eventually heading back to our cars. Chapter 18, Deanna and the Point of No Return. The next day, Deanna came over. I still didn't tell her anything about Dawn, because I honestly didn't even know where things stood yet. Besides, Deanna and Dawn couldn't stand each other, and I knew it would just lead to a whole mess of unnecessary drama before I had any real answers for myself. Deanna said, "It's my friend's birthday today and she wants to rent a room for a small party, but she's having a hard time finding a place." Then she looked at me. "Could we just do it at your place instead?" I frowned a little. "I don't know, Dave, honestly, it doesn't sound like a good idea. I don't even know most of those people." She stepped closer, those big wild eyes locked right onto mine, full of that dangerous mix of sweetness and pressure that she knew how to use when she wanted something. "Please, Paul," she said. "It would make her so happy if you agreed. And it would mean a lot to me too." Then she smiled that crooked little smile that always made it harder to say no. "I'll owe you one." Against my better judgment, I sighed. "Fine. But only a few people. And you're all cleaning up afterward." I wish I had listened to that bad feeling in my gut sooner. Because by the time night rolled around, my small one-bedroom apartment had turned into a packed, sweating, chaotic mess of bodies, noise, and bad decisions. People started arriving in waves. One after another. More and more. Some I knew. Most I didn't. Bottles came through the door. Weed. Smoke. God knows what else. The music was blasting so loud the walls felt like they were throbbing with it. The whole place was alive in that ugly, unstable way that only happens when a party has gone way past the point of being a party. My apartment, which was already small to begin with, felt like it had shrunk to half its size. People were standing in the kitchen, crowding the hallway, leaning against the walls, yelling over the music, laughing too loudly, moving around like there were no consequences to any of it. And there were so many people I didn't even know. It wasn't a gathering anymore. It was a takeover. I kept looking around for Deanna, trying to keep some kind of control on the situation, trying to catch her before things got too far out of hand. At first I told myself maybe she was just somewhere in the apartment, talking to someone, taking a breather, handling the party like I'd expected her to. But after a while, I realized I hadn't seen her in a minute. That's when the feeling in my chest started to change. I found Paris first, half slumped near the stairwell outside. "Paris, you okay?" She was holding herself together in that obvious way people do when they're clearly not okay but don't want to admit it yet. I lifted her hair back gently while she leaned a little, trying to steady herself. "Yeah," she muttered. "I'm okay. I just had too much, and I haven't eaten anything today." "All right. Take it easy." Then I asked her, "Have you seen Dee? I can't find her anywhere." Paris didn't answer right away. She just looked at me. That pause was enough to turn my stomach. "What?" I said. "What is it?" "Last I saw her," she said, "she was in the bathroom." That was all it took. I already knew this wasn't going anywhere good. "I'll go check on her," I said. I moved through the crowd, pushing past bodies and voices and heat, forcing my way through people who barely even noticed I was there. The music was still pounding. People were still laughing. Somebody bumped into my shoulder and didn't even apologize. By the time I reached the bathroom door, I could feel my pulse in my neck. It was locked. I stood there for a second, staring at it. Then I stepped back once and drove my shoulder straight into it. The door flew open. And there she was. Deanna, wasted, half lost in the wreckage of her own bad decisions, making out with some random guy I had never seen before. For 1 second, everything inside me went completely still. Then it all hit at once. Not just anger. Not just jealousy. Something hotter than that. Something deeper. Something ugly and immediate and impossible to hide. Because no matter how much I had tried to convince myself that me and Deanna were not a real couple, no matter how many times I told myself I had no right to feel like this, the truth was that I did feel like this. And seeing her with him tore right through me. I grabbed the guy by the collar and yanked him out of there so hard he lost his balance and crashed into a few other people behind him. The whole room shifted instantly. The guy stumbled back up, dazed and furious, while the people around him started reacting, shouting, pulling back, realizing something had gone bad very quickly. And Deanna. Deanna just sat there looking completely gone. When I turned toward the guy again, he was already angry, already loud, already trying to puff himself up in front of everybody. "What the fuck is your problem, man?" Then he threw a wild right hand. It came in sloppy and desperate. I saw it coming from a mile away. People always think chaos moves faster than thought, but it doesn't. Not to someone who knows how to fight. Not to someone who has lived long enough around violence to recognize the shape of it before it lands. Time slowed down in that ugly, familiar way. I blocked the punch high, stepped in, and answered with a spinning heel kick to the side of his head. It happened so fast most people in the room barely understood what they had just seen. The guy went down like a brick. And just like that, the whole party changed. Everybody froze. Then the noise burst loose again all at once, shouting, gasps, movement, panic. People started backing up. Someone yelled to get out. Somebody else knocked something over. A chair scraped hard across the floor. A cup shattered somewhere in the middle of the chaos. And then people started leaving. Fast. The whole room, which had been overflowing with noise and bodies only seconds before, began emptying out like someone had pulled the life right out of it. Some guy's friends dragged him away. Deanna's people started vanishing one by one, scared now, embarrassed now, suddenly aware that this was no longer just a party. And then it was over. Just like that. No music. No laughter. No pretending. Just silence. I stood there in the middle of my apartment, breathing hard, staring at the wreckage of the night. But the apartment was not what was really breaking me. That part could be cleaned up. That part could be fixed. The real problem was what was happening inside me. Seeing Deanna with another guy hit me like a knife straight through the chest. It wasn't just jealousy. It wasn't just anger. It was something deeper than that, something hot, sick, and immediate, something I could feel burning all the way up through my body. Because no matter how much I tried to tell myself we were not really a couple, no matter how many times I told myself I had no right to feel that way, the truth was, I did feel that way. And the second I saw her with him, I lost control. Completely. For a few seconds back there, I did not care about consequences. I did not care about the room, the people, the noise, or the damage. All I saw was red. All I felt was that raw, violent surge of pain and betrayal that made everything else disappear. And the worst part was how close I came to going too far. I could have seriously hurt that man. I could have accidentally killed him. That thought hit me hard once the adrenaline started fading, because that was the real horror of the night, not the fight, not the party, not the mess in my apartment. It was realizing how dangerous my own emotions could become when it came to Deanna. Even though we were not a real couple, it still felt real to me in that moment. It still ripped through me like something sacred had been violated. And I hated myself for not being able to control it. That was the truth I could not escape. Not the ruined apartment. Not the wasted people. Not the noise. It was the fact that Deanna still had that kind of power over me. And that power scared the hell out of me. 1000% facts.